Alright, here we are for chapter 1039. Hopefully everyone's doing well. I'm excited this week because there's a color spread, and you guys know I love looking at those. And this week's, Jesus, this is crazy. Alright, anyways, this will contain spoilers and you know the deal. Actually though, if you haven't seen yet and you're anime only, I tweeted that in anticipation for Film Red, it seems like the episode they might air before going into Film Red will be animating chapter 1017. So that means pacing is probably going to be less than stellar, while the manga is going to continue to be peak fiction. So I'd catch up to the manga if I were you. There was a lot of news that came out yesterday about Film Red, but yeah, check my Twitter for those updates. But okay, jumping right into the chapter spread. Immediately the first thing I see is, okay, there's a literal Monkey King guiding Luffy. I know there was a bunch of theories relating to Luffy's fruit not being the Gomu Gomu no Mi and instead being the Hanuman fruit, who is a monkey god. And then before there was all like Luffy being Sun Wukong, but also Luffy's name is Monkey D. Luffy. So if you're on that theory boat, that's a pretty in-your-face indicator that there's definitely something there, it feels. Or it's Oda hearing the fandom, laughing and throwing a red herring in our faces. But, so that's not the craziest thing. The craziest thing is, after I was doing a Straw Hat check, I see Usopp, Zoro, Nami, Sanji, Brook, Frankie, Jinbei, Luffy, Chopper, and Robin. But wait, Robin, what is going on there? She is touching a skull. This is what? Like, please, no. I freaked out when I saw this because, yeah, it could just be a design, or it could just allude to the fact that she always sees and touches death like that's her whole life, or it could be what people surmise, that Oda kills off characters when he puts them with a skull in the color spreads. Well, the main example of that is the classic Ace one with the Ace of Spades and the Brook skull card. I know it still sounds like a stretch, but I don't want to see any Straw Hat touching skulls like this. Unless it's Brook, because, you know, he's already dead. So, I mean, yeah. But okay, going into this chapter, we're definitely going to have to breathe for this one. We start out with another setting placement page, which I'm glad we're getting updates for. It honestly looks like Momo is putting in work pulling Onigashima back. This is pretty impressive. Like, I was just thinking about it, especially if this is older Momo, this whole storyline is definitely one of the best training arcs anyone could ever get. Luffy was his teacher and let him punch one of the strongest characters in the verse, just to boost his confidence and obviously get stronger. That's a hard feat for anyone. Kind of feels like Gojo bringing Itadori to the Mount Fuji guy fight to give him battle experience, but Itadori didn't really do anything. Whereas here, Momo did that, and now after Yamato coached him on his dragon form, his first task is to drag an entire island while flying. So if Momo comes out of this hella strong and with some character development, I wouldn't be surprised. Though I'm expecting him to act like Sanji around women, and it's gonna be weird because he is older now, so he's definitely going to get bonked for that, which makes 100% sense and would also make more sense if you watch my Sanji series on emotions, but also my future Vince Smoke analysis video. So the chapter title is called The Main Attraction, and we jump right into this chapter's main attraction right from page 1, the continuation of Law and Kid's fight with Big Mom. I'm glad this pattern broke of the character being defeated the chapter after their named title chapter. It makes sense because with Sanji versus Queen and Zoro versus King, they were facing commanders, whereas Big Mom is a Yonko, so it makes sense there'd be a different progression of things. That being said, after the fight sequence from last chapter, it looks like Big Mom is winded. And of course, Kid goes to gloat a little, but here comes probably my favorite dialogue. It feels like they broke the fourth wall almost, and really shows, at least to me, how in tune Oda is with the audience. We have Law complaining about Kid and basically saying what I said in my last chapter reaction video, in the comments and in the video. I said it felt like Law was doing a majority of the damage, and if I had to put a number on it, it was like 90% of the damage was being done by Law, and then Kid was coming in to cherry pick and finish. And Law literally says exactly that. He's like, bro, why are you cherry picking? And Kid literally reacts as I would expect. I can't wait to see the official translations, because like I said, these lines are gold. I hope they keep the same energy. It really feels like the characters have personality by acknowledging these things. Like, yeah, if I was Law, I'd be like, yo, bro, can you do something? Because last chapter I said the exact same thing. And then the next lines, Kid says he has a trump card in his sleeve, which is crazy and we'll get there soon. But then Law says what I said last chapter again. Oh, what comes after the bull attack? A hippo? Maybe an elephant? Like, that's so funny and hilarious, because last chapter I was like, bro, you're just throwing metal in different shapes. He tossed steel beams, then a mecha arm, then a mecha bull, and Law also sees that trend and is like, hey, yo, bro, it's the same shit every time, is it not? But Kid says the same thing as last time. He isn't going to divulge his powers to Law. But this is the confirmation line in my opinion, because I kept saying that Law's attacks were the main threats to Big Mom. It was Law's abilities that were shown to do damage and his attacks that were being portrayed to be the major damage catalyst for Big Mom. And she herself acknowledges that Law's techniques are dangerous and thinks about the shockwave that Law can cause. That's what I've been saying. It was feeling like, yes, in this panel you can see Big Mom's bones are broken. So to me it looked like Law decimated her internally and then Kid provided the pressure to break her bones. But had Law not done his abilities, then Kid's attacks wouldn't have hurt her like this. But I think Law's abilities alone are capable of putting most normal people out of commission. But clearly Big Mom has insane durability and regen and healing also. She uses her soul power to basically heal back to full, but she's still tired and fatigued probably. That being said, now Big Mom pulls out her Miser Saber and that looks insane and she's about to rock Kid's world here. But then Kid does the most man mode shit I've seen. He dives into Big Mom as she winds up this monstrosity of an attack, and while she is swinging, uses his awakening. And now we get more information on his powers too. He can set polarities on two things to basically stun lock or snare his enemies. This is what I was talking about last chapter. This is what I want to see, this versatility. I know it seems like no different than the last time he used his assign, but okay, I think this is a perfect note to talk about Kid a little bit. So this move that Kid just used in my brain equates to this in the real world, where two high-powered magnets collide and destroy each other. This could happen in the right circumstances with just one magnet, but the double magnet collision is deadly. Like, look at this chicken wing getting destroyed. And so the thing I want to talk about, and I tweeted this also, was I was emphasizing last chapter, I want Kid to be good. Why? Because magnets are like one of my favorite things. I literally wrote my college essay on superconductor magnetic levitation and how that inspired me to think of countless real-world applications and the joy it brought me to using cutting-edge technology to help people in their everyday lives. As I was saying in the last chapter reaction, that Kid needs versatility in his power output, and this panel is enough to show me that I no longer have to be disappointed. He used his powers in a clutch situation to disable Big Mom's mobility and attack, rather than just slamming and throwing things at her. He used crowd control, arguably one of the most useful ability classes in a fight. This is disorienting, and later on in the chapter, I'm gonna take one more pause to explain something again. But so moving on, Big Mom does Big Mom things to counter this situation. She lifts the giant tower that Kid used to stun lock her, which if that whole thing is metal, that's an absurd feat, but just again shows the absolute menace titan that Big Mom is. Big Mom then goes to try and turn around the situation, and then Law throws a giant tower that was stuck to Big Mom on top of her, which I'm curious about. Was the tower stuck to Big Mom still, and was Law able to move it off? Is it still polarized to Big Mom, or did that wear off? Probably we'll get more clarity in the anime for that. It would be interesting to see, because then Law and Kid's powers could have real fun and cool interactions. And then we get to a really interesting part of the chapter with Law. And I say interesting because I feel like I might get hate for this, but hate is fine. I'm just being me here, putting out my perspective. And so Law transforms and extends his sword. And so now very clearly the second or third time his sword extended out, it's definitely his awakening that's doing this. But now I'm just interested in like the restrictions of this. Can Law only expand it in one plane of direction? Or can he change its direction like Diamante or Luffy's Black Mamba? And honestly, how does this work? But still addressing the point I made in the previous chapter, it doesn't take away from the fact that there's still multiple transforming swords, even more than the ones I listed. There was also Sasaki's sword also, so the theme and concepts of swords transforming here are still present. But going back to the chapter, we see Law stab Big Mom in the heart, and skipping some things, he withstands a barrage of attacks from Big Mom, it looks like, while saying deeper. And I'm gonna be honest, someone memed saying that these interactions between Law and Big Mom, especially like last chapter where he said he was penetrating her, I can't not see the subtle hentai dialogue happening, something I wish I could unhear and unsee, but it's kind of just in your face now. Law's sword ends up extending through Onigashima and touches the ground on Wano. This is some insane ability for sure. This is a world-shaping ability. I'm not sure how functional this is, but this is a Yonko level ability. I'm imagining a rookie pirate witnessing Law do this and literally passing out. Like how people feared Big Mom and Whitebeard and Kaido. If Law were a Yonko and rumors of this passed around that Law could essentially destroy an entire city from what looks like a mile away, that would be scary. Like if I had to choose a Yonko to defeat between Metal Flinging Kid, Rubber Bouncing Boy Luffy, and Penetration Decimation Law Surgeon of Death, I'd definitely choose Law last based off of how scary he would sound. But so we see Law uses Shock Willy, not sure how to pronounce that, but yeah, so this is the probably hot take or unpopular opinion that I have, is that unless Law knows that the longer his sword is, the stronger the impact will be, this doesn't make much sense to me. Like unless Law had an ulterior motive to help Momonosuke and Yamato, which he shouldn't be aware of or worried about right now, this move seems incredibly odd, and here's why. This is the hole Big Mom is on. It's about Big Mom sized, and it seems like as Law expands the sword, the size of the hole gets bigger. So Yamato sees a wider hole and then Momo sees a giant crater. Like this scaling is wonky, but if you look at Law's sword and the ground on Wano, that hole does seem to be way bigger than the one underneath Big Mom. And so this is where I say it doesn't make much sense. To me, it looked like 99% of the damage that Law put out was dealt past Big Mom. Big Mom definitely took damage here. Based on this panel, it looks like a serious amount, but it also looks less than the one from the last chapter. But wouldn't it make more sense for Law to consolidate all of the power into Big Mom rather than what is shown? I mean, this hole is now convenient for Yamato, so she can possibly push Kazenbo down this hole or the explosives out the hole or both. And then for Momo, this crater is useful because it looks like a great place to set Onigashima down. So for that reason, this move seemed less impactful for the fight and was more or less forced for the plot, it feels like. To me, unless it's explained otherwise, it seems like the way Law should have used this move is by stabbing her with the tip of the sword. That way she can be hit by the sweet spot for the largest amount of damage or shockwave. Maybe the shockwave is stronger at the start, but the ending shockwave looks just as devastating, if not more. To me, it almost looks like most of the energy that Law expended into this move low-key missed Big Mom. Cause if the shockwaves burst radially out from the sword, then yeah, like 99% of the sword isn't even in Big Mom. So not that Law wasted this move, but more so it feels like this move was kind of a plot transition move rather than a fight focusing move. It set up Yamato, Momo, and obviously as we get to the next part, Kid. So now talking about Kid. This is insanity. Right after Law's move, we see Kid now set up with what looks like to be a giant gun, and later it gets translated as an electromagnetic gun. And this was really cool because earlier in the chapter, Kid says nothing but scraps. So I think the whole time, Kid had to find parts to make this gun. So while Law was keeping Big Mom occupied, he developed this EM gun. And I say that, but it's really funny because Kid had the time to add this detail, the skull shoulder plate design. And so at this point, I was kind of hoping, because I didn't see the next page yet, so I thought this was another giant gun type of thing, but then yeah, it's called an electromagnetic cannon, and then there's an editor note saying that the kanji is similar to a rail gun, which I'm not sure if you guys saw my tweet about this, but this is what I've been waiting for. This is honestly better than what I expected and wanted. I have so much to explain and I don't want to save this for another video because I already have everything I want to say, so I'll just put it all in here. Okay, so I realize that many of my viewers are new and have no reason to really check out my previous chapter reactions, though I say some interesting things in them, but this is from my chapter 1030 reaction video from like 3 months ago. I'm so glad I started YouTube and documenting my reactions, but here's what I said exactly. I mean, the power in general is fine, because on anyone else that'd be really crazy, but against Big Mom, it kind of seems dumb. Also, did Kid have to touch her for her to become a magnet? And can Kid now, like, control Big Mom now that she's a magnet? I was hoping that Kid could create a railgun with his power. That seems like the most powerful use for his power. With an awakening, he can magnetize anything to become rails, and then either use projectiles or use himself as the ammo and get fired at, like, light speed. But also, Kid's power is definitely going to have expansions, because magnetism has played a subtle role throughout One Piece, especially when you think of log poses and how each island has a unique magnetic field. Makes you wonder how it became that way. In any case, I am disappointed right now, but I don't think I'll stay disappointed. So I fully expected Kid to have a railgun, and was basically just waiting for it. In my head back then, there was no world where Kid would not have a railgun. With how creative and even scientific Oda has been with other powers, it just didn't feel like Kid wouldn't get this. And so you can hear in my previous reaction, I wasn't even thinking of a legit railgun like this. I was thinking more of a railgun that was just a majority based off of Kid's powers, like in other animes where it's literally using 2 rails to shoot off projectiles. I didn't think Oda was gonna make it this complicated, but I love that he did it this way. Just to preface this panel and Kid actually getting a railgun and my thinking of it and just my tie to magnets, I've always loved magnets. I have a whole box of magnets from my childhood of all different types and sizes and strengths, and so when I was thinking of a railgun, I was thinking more of a makeshift railgun, and I remembered in college, this is actually hilarious. The dean of the physics department asked my independent research team to create a railgun to demonstrate for the intro physics classes, and it was like an unlimited budget and resources kind of thing. And so the railgun we would have made obviously wouldn't have looked like what Kid made, but what Kid made is what an end stage railgun looks like. And I was telling my wife about that time, and then I remembered why we were gonna get that project, and it was because we did well with our previous project where we built an analog projector to display some mathematical philosophy concept that was honestly beyond me. And get this, the name of the project was the Vision Machine. Of course, ParVision worked on the Vision Machine. That's just funny. But anyways, so that's why maybe it feels like I was putting so much pressure on Kid, because my base knowledge of magnetism and railguns is a little bit above average. I realized through some conversations with my viewers that my understanding of magnetism might not be the standard viewer's expectations, and Oda probably wouldn't be fulfilling that level of magnetism. But then Oda did deliver, and in the best way possible. My idea of Kid using a railgun was a desperate plea to make Kid stronger. I thought he was just gonna awaken and create makeshift railguns anywhere with anything, cause he can turn anything into a magnet. So he had all the components, but what Oda did here is amazing. He made it so Kid has access to this insanely powerful weapon, but his restriction is he has to build it first. Like, that means Kid is smart enough to build a military grade railgun, and not just the hodgepodge railguns I was thinking of that exist in fiction, but this almost completely changes Kid's character dynamic. Kid seems like the character that is just running headfirst and Hulk smashing everything, but with this move especially, it shows just how much Kid has to prepare with his abilities. This is a great way to limit Kid's strength. His powers don't allow him to automatically create a railgun. He has to have the brain power to make a railgun, using his powers to both create it and power it. I really like this, and this whole chapter was exactly what I wanted 3 months ago. Even though it's not what I had imagined, it's better than I thought. This is why Oda is the GOAT. This is why I love Oda and One Piece. Maybe I'm reading into the details, but I feel like Oda leaves these details for us to pick up if we want to or not. You can enjoy this show on so many different levels. And so we get this mega dope blast that's coming out of Kid's EM cannon railgun type of thing. And this is probably what defeats Big Mom. I won't be surprised if she is defeated at the start of the next chapter. Law literally says, "Your era is over." This was amazing. I didn't think the chapters could continue to provide like they were, and I can't believe how well executed this chapter was. Oda addressed everything I asked about, everything I talked about. Like, it really feels like the disappointment that I felt in Kid this whole time that I talked about him in chapter 1030 and chapter 1038 was Oda purposely guiding that feeling to set up for this chapter. This chapter, chapter 1039, where he has Law point out all of my gripes that I had about Kid, and then for Kid to be like, I feel like low-key embarrassed because he just wants to smash and be showy, but in reality, the reason he couldn't do this earlier was probably because it took a lot of time, preparation, planning, and resource gathering. Like I said before, I wanted Kid to be good, and this isn't good. It's great. It's amazing. And now I love the dynamic of the three characters, Law, Luffy, and Kid. I honestly wasn't expecting this chapter. I was so distracted this week with my health stuff and other projects and just wow. In any case, because of the way this chapter was, and I already put a deeper analysis of the chapter in this video, I'm not sure if I will do another deeper analysis of the chapter on Sunday or Monday. I do have some ideas, but I don't think the official translations are going to change the feeling of this chapter that much. But if I were to do a deep dive, it'd be focusing on Law and Kid's powers and how the dynamic works so well with Luffy now. Let me know if you guys want that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and this chapter like I did. This chapter got me excited like no other. Like always, thank you guys for connecting with me, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you all on the next ParVision.